taking your hour out of your day to come over and learn a little bit about holding online meetings. I'm very, very thankful that I was invited to serve on the South Carolina PTA board, and that I am able to bring some of my skill sets and make them useful in this arena. I actually have done tech work for, oh golly, I think I've been doing it professionally now for almost 20 years. And part of what I do is I actually go around and I teach small business owners and I teach older adults how to use technology, specifically how to use it to enhance their life and not frustrate them in life. And so this kind of boiled right into my wheelhouse. I have been teaching folks now since March how to use the different tools that are available, like Zoom and Google Meet, all of these different online meeting platforms. So I'm happy that we're able to jump in. I'm going to watch the chat for just a second. I'm curious if you would throw in the chat, let me know if you were able to watch the video on how to use GoToMeeting. And I just want to double check, make sure everybody had a chance to view that video. No. Okay.
Mike, it's kind of split right now between yes and no, so we can post that link. I'll post that link in the chat for everyone.
Yeah, if you'll do that, and definitely don't try to watch it now. It's approximately 16 minutes long, but I just wanted to get a good idea, because if the majority of you had previously watched that video, I would change my language just a little bit. But knowing that at least half of you have not, let's go through a few things. One, when Devan shares that link, definitely save it. I would invite you to go watch that video. Like I said, it is 16 minutes long, but it provides a very thorough walkthrough of GoToMeeting. And GoToMeeting is the tool that the South Carolina PTA has secured. They actually secured the professional version for it so that you can use this to hold your PTA meetings. And it's a very, very useful tool. The professional version has a lot of what I call they're critical elements to have an effective meeting. But today, what I wanted to do was actually take a few minutes to walk you through using Zoom and Google Meet, talk about the similarities between the different programs, some of the differences, and then have an open Q&A so we can talk about real issues that are going on, what you're facing right now. We already saw some of that in the chat, I believe, with Suzanne asking about translation services. And so I want to talk about some of those real problems that you're having so that we can get them figured out and get you to the point where you're having meetings, they're effective and they're successful, so that you can do what you're there to do, and that is to serve our children of South Carolina. So let's jump over. I have updated my screen, and what you see here is a Zoom meeting. And if you would, while I'm talking about Zoom, jump in the chat and throw in have you used any of these programs yet? Are you familiar with Zoom, Google Meet? Are you familiar with WebEx or GoToMeeting? Okay.
Yeah.
Several of you are. Mm-hmm. Good. Familiar with Zoom, WebEx? Wow. Yeah. Okay. Sounds like the corporate world there. Zoom, Google Meet, Hangouts, perfect. Yeah, if you were familiar with Google Hangouts, it has now become Meet, because for some reason everybody always has to change the names and rebrand everything. Zoom, Hangouts, perfect.
That's right.
Good. So it sounds like you all probably have a fairly good understanding of Zoom already. But let's just look, when I'm hosting a meeting through Zoom, it'll look very similar to what you see on my screen now. Now you see that it's actually my picture on here because I'm the only one in this very, very lonely meeting for Zoom. But if we had other board members on here, other people that were participating in the meeting, you would see their pictures show up, and then eventually once they turn their video on, you'll see their videos pop up. But today what I wanted to go over was a little bit more of these bottom controls. You see how you have your unmute and your mute button here, which handles all your audio. Over here, you've got your start video option, and then your security, which we really, for hosting meetings, we don't care too much about these three. What we do want to start caring about here when we get into Zoom is our participants button. When we click our participants button, you'll see that it actually opens up a new tab. It's very similar to GoToMeeting. I have the same button on GoToMeeting. And again, when you watch that video, you'll see where that button is with the GoToMeeting. But here is where I can see all of my participants. That's really important when I'm having a board meeting and I need to know who's online. It's going to be even more important when you have a general membership meeting and you're trying to host them using one of these softwares. Seeing an actual participants list is always very important. And then, of course, we have the chat function. All three of these programs, Zoom, Google Meet, and GoToMeeting, support chat. The written chat is really critical in my mind, because when you need to take a vote, depending on the size of your board, it may be tough to see everybody raise their hand. And then maybe somebody was scratching their head and they weren't really raising their hand, and you voted in the affirmative for them, and that turns into an issue. So I actually would encourage everybody, and we'll talk about this in a few more minutes, but utilize the written chat in these actual programs to create a written record of your votes. So somebody makes the motion, you have a second, you have the discussion. When you go to call the question as the presiding officer, you can call the question and you can say, respond with a yes or a no, an I or an A in the chat. And then, because when you, let's see, this is a chat message. When I send that chat message, it will be, of course, this one says from me to everyone, but if I saw this chat message from Devan, it would say from Devan to everyone, and I would see her vote, and then we could count up the votes and move forward with our meeting. Here's the really, really cool thing. When you record in GoToMeeting, Zoom, or Google Meet, not only does it record your video and audio, it will produce a copy of your chat text as well. And so you can hand that over to your secretary. They can take that and use that to help them prepare the minutes if they have any questions on preparing the minutes. So outside of your chat and your participants, you actually also have a polls button. Okay, and the polls do occur in the free version of Zoom. However, it takes a little bit of setup in the back end. So I would definitely not grab Zoom and start it up for the first time and it's 5 minutes before your meeting. Zoom requires a little bit more setup than that. I would jump in, look at your polls. You can actually set up polls through Zoom before the meeting. So I could go into my polls. If I know we've got, I don't know, 4 agenda items that we're going to have a vote on, we could actually set up each of those agenda items as polls, and instead of asking for the vote through chat, we could vote through the polls, and then we could share those results with the group. It's not that one way is better than the other, it's just a different way to use the tool. So just be aware that you have polls. And then you see this little green button here. You might not be able to read the text, but it says share screen. And when I go to share the screen, it will actually give me the different screen options for me to share. So just like I'm sharing my screen right now through GoToMeeting, and you all see this screen over here, you can do the same thing through Zoom, and you can share any of your programs, any of your screens. This makes it really easy when you have to either show everybody I don't know, maybe you've got a budget report you need everybody to see. And instead of saying, well, I emailed out the link last week, what do you mean you can't open up a Word document? Oh, your computer's messing up? Get rid of all of the excuses. As the presiding officer, open it up on your computer, share your screen, or give the control to your treasurer and let your treasurer share their screen and show off the budget report. As the presiding officer, you may want to show off the agenda so that you always have the agenda on the screen and you can stay on track. However you use the share screen option is completely up to you, but realize you do have that option in Zoom as well as GoToMeeting. And then there's some cutesy things like the reactions. I can do a hand clap and it'll show everybody the little hand clap icon. These are just to make the meeting fun. They really have no effective use unless you ask everybody to give you a thumbs up. And if you're in favor of this, give me a thumbs up. They all give you a thumbs up. But the reactions are more there just for fun. And then I believe I've said this a couple of times, but just to be sure, you can record these meetings. You're looking at a paid version of Zoom, so I have a little bit more capabilities in my More, but you are able to record the meeting. You can actually create a local recording, then upload it to something like YouTube and share that out with your general membership, or share it to board members, or just keep it for archive purposes. I don't believe the state PTA is making any requirements right now that would require you to record and store these, but since you have the capability, it might be a smart move on your part to record them so that if anybody has questions, instead of being curious and gossiping or wondering, they could go back and watch the video and find out exactly what happened at the meeting and what was said. And then when you're all said and done, we have this wonderful end button. Now, if you normally attend Zoom meetings versus hosting Zoom meetings, you'll notice that this actually has an extra button. Instead of just leave the meeting, it has end meeting for all. When you click end meeting for all, it'll actually close out the whole meeting for everybody. And that ensures that everybody is logged off all at the same time and you don't have anybody lingering around, similar to when we were in person and we would have parking lot meetings after the PTA meeting. It kind of ensures that everybody gets off of the call at the same time and you don't have any lingering conversations that weren't part of the meeting but happened anyways. Just helps you cut down on that. I'm going to take a moment because it's looked pretty quiet. I'm going to take a moment and ask if anybody has a Zoom specific question. Good point, Devan. Devan made a point. She confirmed there's no requirement. Just make sure to stick to business as usual, and she advises against recording executive committee meetings. Just stick to your board meetings. And remember, with an executive committee meeting, you should be going into those to discuss things that are really just important to those officers. They're typically more sensitive issues, and so would not be. Yeah, I agree. I would not encourage you to record your executive committees. And I don't see any questions coming through. Do you, Devan?
No questions at this time.
Awesome. Well, let's move on to Google Meet and let's spend a few minutes over there. Boom. So Google Meet has, you'll see it on the screen now. And again, I'm the lone participant in this wonderful meeting. But you'll notice that Google Meet has taken their Hangouts format, and they've kind of stuck to their Hangouts format with Google Meet. It is a very simplistic format. And traditionally with Google Meet, the person that's talking takes the main frame. So where you see my picture, if my actual video was turned on over there, that's where you would see my video. And whoever is the person that is the primary talker, that person's video would show up here. They do have some other formats, but that's the traditional format for the actual Google Meet. Google Meet, one thing that I kind of like about Google Meet is that it does start recording automatically. And you can actually see that up in the top left corner, you actually have a little red dot. This meeting that I have over here is being recorded automatically. And I do like that because sometimes, quite honestly, I forget to hit record. And I'll be 5 or 10 minutes into a meeting and somebody has to remind me to hit the record button. Google Meet, again, they keep everything nice and simple. If we look down at the bottom, just like the other programs, this is where our main control panel is. You see I can mute and unmute my microphone with this little microphone picture. I can actually leave the call, which they've made a little red telephone, so it's very similar to your smartphone button. And then the video camera will allow me to turn my camera on or off. A lot of people will be scheduling their meetings, and we're going to go talk about that in just a minute. But if you were to come over here to the meeting details, one thing that is nice about Google Meet is they make the joining link really easy to get to. So if you've got somebody that's sending you a text message, somebody that sent you an email, you're waiting for them to get on and they said, hey, I can't find the link anywhere. It's really easy to go right here and copy the link and send it to them on whatever device they're looking to get onto. Now, Suzanne, this might be an option for you. I have not investigated this, but Google Meet does have on some kind of closed captioning, which of course it's using its auto voice to text feature, which is fairly good, but some words it still, it doesn't understand Southern very well. But that might be something. I'm not sure if that closed caption will help translate or not, but that's something that we could definitely look at.
And Mike, Zoom does that also, depending on the version. It does closed captioning too, but like you said, it doesn't always capture Southern.
Yeah, interesting. I'll have to. That must be a back-end setting because I've never seen that option in Zoom. So
we have it.
I will definitely go look that up.
And Mike, it could be a school district. It is. I'm going to be corrected. Zoom has it if it is purchased, because we have it in our school district because of the meetings that go on with parents. So it is closed captioning, and they have purchased that additional piece. So thank you for helping.
That must be Enterprise. Yeah, because I have the Pro version.
It's Enterprise. Yep, you're right.
I've got the, and then of course, as with all of the other programs, the Present Now button will actually allow you to share your screen. You can share your entire screen or a window, or if you're on Chrome, just one of your Chrome tabs. I do see a question coming through. And as far as Google Meet is concerned, I mean, this is pretty much it. You do have your participants list at the top where you can see everybody that's in the meeting. You also have a chat. So again, all three of the major programs, they have a lot of similarities. You can really have effective meetings in all three of these. But like I said, we're recommending the GoToMeeting because we've been able to purchase the professional version. And in my opinion, and I think the opinion of the South Carolina PTA, it's a better option, mostly because it is the professional version. Does anybody have specific questions about Google Meet?
Mike, do you see the question from Katie? Are there any tricks to avoid the dreaded echo if streaming? a video via Google Meet.
Now, when you're talking about streaming a video, you're wanting to play a video on your computer that then goes out over the meeting, or are you talking about? Yes. Unfortunately, with that, there usually isn't. Now, one thing that will help a lot is having other people to be sure that they are muted, because these programs are pretty good about capturing somebody's voice. And so, like, my microphone is on now, my speakers are on, and Devan keeps talking. She shouldn't be coming through as feedback or interference for y'all. The issue is if Devan were to start playing music, that would actually feed back through my microphone and create that nasty little echo for y'all. And sometimes it creates feedback. So I would always just encourage other people to mute. And then the reality is, a lot of times the sound is coming out of your speakers into your microphone to go back out. And with some of those videos you try to stream, unfortunately, it's just not a good solution.
Mike, can I
Hope
interject?
that helps, Katie. It's really kind of a, yeah, go ahead.
Mike, I just want to interject. One thing that we found is that sometimes people will call in from their phone but be viewing from their computer. You've got to make sure that the audio is muted on one or the other. So that provides some feedback, and that will clear up if you mute one of them and only use one. You can still listen through your phone but watch through your computer as long as one's muted, and that'll stop the feedback also.
Absolutely. So if you have a situation where every time John goes to talk, you hear that squelching feedback, that I found a lot of times that Devan is spot on. They'll be logged in from their phone for the audio, and they'll be logged into their computer. And the reality is they end up catching that feedback, and they just need to mute one of their devices. Can we mute others? So yes, as a host through all three of those programs, you can actually mute other people that are in the meeting, especially those folks that, I mean, let's just face it, there's people that you can tell 32 times, please mute your phone or please mute your device, and they just don't mute it, despite how easy it is to mute. You can mute them. Just be aware, for privacy reasons, most of the programs now will not let you unmute the person. Like Zoom, for example, has a button that asks to unmute. And when you hit that button as the host, the person gets a little pop-up on their screen saying the host is asking you to unmute. They added that feature as an added level of privacy and security so that people couldn't just randomly unmute your microphone. But if you run your meeting smoothly, you can say, all right, well, Devan, I'm going to get you to answer this next question, and here's the question. Would you go ahead and unmute yourself? And that kind of gives the person a little warning so they can get over to their button and unmute themselves. Let's see, where do you find the information for people to call into the meet? So are you talking about, Kim, are you talking about the invitation? Yes, perfect. So let's look at that. If we are operating through Zoom, for example, oops, I went too far out. Hold on one second. There we go. So if I'm operating through Zoom as the host, this is where I go and I schedule meetings. And so you would normally come in, you would see this screen once you're logged in. You would tell it you want to schedule a meeting. It's going to ask you for all of your meeting information. And let me just set this for tomorrow. Save it. And then once I go to the actual, meetings schedule, it has this set up for tomorrow. You see it right here on the left. I can actually go right here to copy invitation. And when I copy the invitation, the next thing I would want to do is go to my email or my newsletter, wherever you're sharing this information, and paste it. So it's just like a normal copy and paste. You're pasting somebody's email address or phone number from one program to the other. You hit copy invitation, paste it, and then you'll see all of this information, which is very similar to what you saw for today's meeting. To get into the GoToMeeting. GoToMeeting operates this way. They have a copy invitation. Zoom operates this way. And if we go back over to Google Meet operates this way as well. But one interesting little feature, with Google Meet is when I go to schedule a meeting, I can actually schedule it through Google Calendar. Now, GoToMeeting and Zoom, both of them will integrate with the Google Calendar, but in order to schedule a Google Meet, you do it through this. So you would add your title, then add any description down here, invite your guests, and then when you invite your guests, it'll actually send them a calendar invite and they can say yes, no, or maybe to whether they're attending. And like I said, all three of the programs allow you to schedule it ahead, have all of that set up. You're welcome, Kim. All right, so Devan had shared a link earlier, and Devan, if you would just reshare that, you should all be able to have access to. Let me turn this off.
I'm doing it right now.
There we go. Oh yeah, you should all have access to this Holding Online Meetings. It's a little one-pager. It talks about the similarities and differences of the different programs. I did want to note one very specific limitation that if you're not familiar with it, it can really hurt you in the first time you experience it. But the free version of Zoom is limited to approximately 40 minutes if you have more than 2 participants. So if you sit down to have a board meeting and you've got 6 or 10 people on Zoom, once you get to your 40-minute time limit, it's going to end your meeting, which if you have a 40-minute meeting, hooray for you. We definitely need to talk. But most meetings last a little bit longer than 40 minutes. And so it could be just extremely disruptive if you get 40 minutes into it. Let's just say you're in the middle of debating a motion and your meeting ends. Now you have to create a whole new meeting, send out the invitation, wait for everybody to get online. In the meantime, they're probably all texting you. Some are trying to call you. Avoid that frustration. If you're going to use Zoom and you've got a way to have that pro account in Zoom, more power to you. Otherwise, again, we recommend using the GoToMeeting. There is a limit for the GoToMeeting, but I think I found that, Devan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the limit on a meeting in GoToMeeting is 24 hours. After 24 hours, it'll disconnect you.
That is correct.
So that's
if you're having a meeting,
that's a little bit longer than 40 minutes.
I mean, if you're having a meeting for 24 hours,
yeah.
Congratulations. It's a long meeting.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some tough things you must be discussing there. A couple of things that I did want to note in the similarities section of this little one-pager, which, by the way, as I'm talking about this one-pager, feel free to drop any of your specific questions in the chat. If you're not comfortable or the chat is not a place that's just convenient and you need to voice your questions, just let us know in some way that you have a question you'd like to ask, and then you can unmute and ask your question. So hang on, I'll look at that in just one second, Kim. But I wanted to talk real quick with the similarities between the 3 programs. All 3 programs allow you to have a password to get into the actual meeting. And this is important to make sure that it's set, because I'm sure that you have heard, I'm sure you've all heard the horror stories of people are going back to school, they're using Zoom, and some people are joining these Zoom meetings and sharing inappropriate audio and inappropriate video in the actual meeting room. Not all of the cases, but most of the cases that I've researched, the Zoom meetings that they were using were not secure. They didn't have a password attached. And so if you're familiar with Zoom and really any of these meetings, they usually have an 8, 9, or 10-digit code. And that's how Zoom knows what meeting room to put you in. Well, it's just like randomly dialing a phone number. You randomly dial enough numbers and you're going to get a combination that actually connects to somebody. And so what happens is there are these auto dialing robots that these scammers and these disruptors are using to get into some of these meetings. You stop that by putting a password on your meeting, because when it pops up and they try to join your meeting, they're not going to know your password and they can't get in. The other thing is, and this is tough, because we want to be sure that our general membership is aware from a public point of view. They're aware of the meeting that's happening, and if they want to be able to join in and watch, or you're having a general membership meeting and you need to share that link publicly, you have to be careful, because if you're sharing the link and the password publicly, anybody can get a hold of it. And so just pay attention to where you're sharing your links. I would avoid just randomly sharing your join link through your Facebook or Twitter channels, because anybody could be watching those. I would try to stick to maybe the school newsletter, your member hub email list. Send it out as secure as possible, even though it's still public. Don't share those things on things like Facebook. So I see a thank you, Devan. Does that mean Devan answered Kim's question?
Yes, I answered.
Yes. Perfect. Can we share the link or invitation on member? Yeah. Okay. Perfect. April, I think I answered that question for you as well. You can definitely, I would encourage you to share that out through Member Hub, or if you have some other kind of email list that you're doing. And Devan answered as well, Emily, yes, the 100 unless you're a G Suite user. So with the free version of Zoom and Google Meet, you're limited to the number of participants, which is right at 100. And then your GoToMeeting, we have the capability to do 150 in the room.
And Mike, just to back up what Mike's saying, if there is a need and you've got a really large group, please reach out to the state. And if you think you're going to have 300 and some people, we do have an account that we can upgrade for a month at a time, and we will provide that resource to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mike, Kim's got a question about the nonprofit G Suite. Okay, that is what the state uses. We all have a G Suite. So that's how we get our domain name. So we pay for our domain name to have scpta.org, but it is run by G Suite. So it costs $120 a year, I think $12 a month for the back end domain. So Kim, whatever your school would be, it would be, I don't know, Smith Elementary .org or whatever you used. So you can get that by applying. They'll ask for your EIN number, and you process that paperwork, and you can get everything set up on the back end. So, and I set it up for the state. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. I love G Suite.
Yeah, G Suite is awesome, just because it it consolidates everything. You can use your Google Drive for your document storage, for your document sharing. You've got G Suite to manage all of your emails. If you have an officer leave, you know where their emails are. You don't have to worry about the commingling of personal email addresses, which is discouraged anyways, but it just simplifies things. And Devan's right, you will have to purchase your domain. She said it was 120 to maintain hours. Some of them, depending on if you're a .org or if you're just a .com or .net, you can get them as cheap as $10 or $12 a year, all the way up to a couple of hundred. It just takes a little bit of research to figure out what you want your domain to be, and obviously that would be something you'd want to make sure is in the budget and it gets approved. But man, it simplifies things, and it really also, it makes you look, it adds a whole new level of professionalism when you can be president at mylocalschoolpta.com. Definitely helps out. And so at the bottom of that one pager, I wanted to talk about 7 tips to have successful meetings. And I probably sit in, on any week, a minimum, I would have to say, of 10 meetings. And some of the meetings are they're like well-oiled machines. They're like this meeting. They're smooth. And then I've been in meetings. I actually had a meeting 2 weeks ago where I was training 300 leaders on a topic, and I had 20 minutes to do it. I received a chat message that said, hey, we're 5 minutes behind. Hey, we're going to have to take a break. You're going to be delayed 10 minutes. Well, I sat there and I was ready, and I'm sitting up and I'm looking at the camera. 18 minutes after that message had been sent, they finally all came back online. But the whole time, it was just this weird, awkward pause. And so to help you have a well-run meeting, I have 7 tips for you that I'd like to share. The first of them is have a clear, well-communicated agenda. When you send out that link to join the meeting for the board meeting or the general, whatever meeting you're having, the committee meeting, attach an agenda. And it doesn't have to be a formalized Word or PDF. It can be some bullet points in the actual email. Let people know what you plan on talking about so they have a minute to think about what they may want to ask, what they may want to say. They have that chance to prepare for the meeting. But more importantly, when you get into the meeting, those bullet points or that agenda becomes your process for moving through the meeting and not getting sidetracked. If you have new business to discuss, there's always a section of the business meeting that handles new business, but at least by preparing that agenda, you have a way to work through your meeting, stay on topic, stay on time, and definitely move through, which I'll go a little out of order on my list. If you look at number 4 in the list, set time limits for the meeting and for discussions. Today's meeting we set for an hour, noon until 1. It's 12:42 and we're in the last section. We've done a pretty good job of keeping on track. You'll see here, I actually open up my phone. I keep my phone open to the clock and I glance at it just to make sure that I'm staying on time with what I need to stay on. If you're not familiar with Robert's rules, there are actually there's actually a motion that allows you to, as a board, agree on limiting discussion, typically based on, or traditionally based on, time limits. And so if you have something that you know is going to be a huge time suck, and it's just going to consume a lot of time, and it's probably going to be a lot of, how do you say this delicately? A lot of wasted breath, if you know what I mean. You can have one of your board members actually make that motion. And if you're ever curious about that, just reach out to one of your district presidents, or go look up Robert's Rules cheat sheet, and you'll see that there's ways to limit that. We're not trying to stop communication. We're just trying to make sure that something that should take 10 minutes doesn't take an hour. Especially in the virtual environment, time can get away. And by the time you've had 6 or 7 or 8 people speak on something for 2 to 3 minutes, you've had a huge chunk of your meeting go by, and you need to make sure that you can stay on task. Appoint a chat moderator to watch the chat windows. That's, even though our wonderful state president is the one organizing this training today, she has been my chat moderator, and she's been in the chat answering your questions. She's also interrupted me a couple of times, which is what she should be doing, to let me know, hey, there's a question here, will you help it? Always appoint somebody to be your chat moderator. You can think all you want that, hey, I've got this is no problem, but it is really distracting to have to sit here and read the chat and squint. You need to lead your meeting. You need to be the one talking. So have that chat moderator that can handle the easy stuff for you, and then have you answer the tougher questions when you need to answer those. Now, number 3, prepare your meeting in advance. What I mean here is practice. Now, I've hosted tons of meetings. So today we got together, Devan and I believe Jessica was even on. We were on here 15 minutes early just to make sure everything is set, ready, and it works. We tested out the screen share. We turned on the video and the microphone just to make sure it's all there. Cannot stress enough, number 3, practice your meeting before you have your meeting. You don't have to have the whole board show up. Get your best friend to jump on. Get your husband or your wife or your significant other. Have them join a meeting with you so that you can play with the different features. You can click on the different buttons, and you're not in a real live meeting where it matters. You're somewhere where if you make a mistake, it's all right. Number 5 and 6 really have to do with right now in the meeting. You want to minimize distractions. If you could see around me right now, you would actually see that I'm in an office. Right now, I am fortunate because I am the only one in this office. If I was at home right now, I would have my spouse and 2 of my 3 kids in the house. There's probably music playing. All of that adds distraction to the meeting. And when you're the one talking, you're the one leading the meeting, you need to be as distraction-free as possible. So even if you have to break away to the bedroom, catch the back wall that's nice and blank, nothing inappropriate back there, do that to step away to have your meeting, because the less distractions, the easier your meeting will run. And then be sure when you conclude your meeting to have clear action items. If this was a meeting where we had to make some kind of decision, take some kind of steps, Kim, I need you to follow up with the librarian to make sure that she's okay if we have a virtual book fair this year. Whatever that might be, make sure you have clear action items. When we walk away from in-person meetings, we have our notes, we're sitting there, we have some time to think as we walk out. When we leave a virtual meeting, a lot of people hit close and they walk out of that door and right back into life. And they don't have very much time to process in that transition. So make sure we have those clear action items. And then number 7 is critical, especially in today's world. Share your meeting notes or your minutes as soon as you can. And so it's really critical, especially with those action items, to share those notes back out. Make sure that people know what they're responsible for, what decisions y'all made, or if you made a decision not to do something, make sure that information is available. That is the bulk of my training. Are there any questions that were left over that I may have missed?
No, it looks good.
It's looking good? All right.
Okay,
What
but
are your recommendations for posting agenda? Well, I think, I mean, of course, we're always going to promote Member Hub because I think Member Hub is probably one of the best ways to share any kind of communication from leadership to your general membership. Now, if you're just sharing your agenda with a few board members to see if anybody needs to add something, obviously just shooting them a quick email works. But when you're posting your agenda and you're making it public so that your general membership can see it, I think a nice little email from Member Hub is good. If you're using the actual hubs inside of Member Hub, you can post it there as a post. I believe you could probably, you'd even be safe posting it if you communicate primarily through Facebook. Just be aware that when you publish it through something like Facebook, people outside of your PTA have the ability to see it and comment on it. And so, you know, if you're dealing with anything where there's people's names or information that, you know, anytime you have privacy concerns, just be very, very aware. But I'd say your first bet, your first place would be to hit Member Hub. And yes, we have, let's see, we actually have a drawing that is going to be coming up. Devan, are you, I have not been tearing up little pieces of paper.
No, I got something even
torn up
better.
little pieces of paper with everybody's name?
No, I got something even better. I'm gonna let you finish up, Mike. So I'm gonna grab the screen. I'm gonna take you off the screen so I can show this. Is that okay? Can I share?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I just absolutely, and I just want to tell everybody thank you. I've really enjoyed your questions and sharing with you today. If you have any questions outside of this meeting, feel free to reach out, and Devan can get them right over to me.
Okay.
Oh, and next week, I don't know if I still have just a second.
Go ahead, Mike.
Next Friday, same time, same place, we're doing a training on Canva. And if you're not familiar with Canva, Canva will change your life. And people laugh at me when I say that. Then they come to my Canva training and go, oh my goodness, that changed my life. But Canva is a really easy way for you to create graphics, flyers, a slew of visual assistance for your PTA. So be sure to sign up for that for next week.
Yes, Mike. I just want to give Mike a shout out because he has worked with me and all the crazy ideas and goes back and forth, and we have really just kind of taken this by the storm. He's super talented. I'm honored to work with him as a volunteer at the state level. He's got lots of great ideas, and I think you guys, he just puts things together for us, and it's been a wonderful experience. So if you are in District 4 or 6 in the Lexington area, Columbia area, he is your district president. And he's going to be kind of touching base with everyone. But I did want to show a little tip to you guys. I mean, there's so many tools that I have that I've used in the years over in the classroom and in various trainings. Thank you, Mike. That's right. Lexington, Richland, Saluda, and Newberry counties. So this one is called miniwebtool.com, and it's a random name picker. So what I did is I'm just going to tell you, as a district board member, we cannot, as volunteers and part of our bylaws, we do not get any kickback from anything, and we do not take, I guess, any gift cards. So what we have up today, for those of you that are attended that are still here, I put your names in a random name picker, and all you do, and I'll share this link with you in the chat so you'll have it for future. It's a great opportunity for you to use in your board meetings or with parents or students. So I put everyone's name in, and then I just click, you just type them in a single field. You click pick a random name. And this is just one option. There are so many out there. It takes a second to reload. And the winner is Emily. So Emily, you would need to email me at, I'm going to have you do it at, email me at the scpta.org email, your mailing address, and we will send you a $15 gift card for attending today. Thank you for your hour of your time, all of you. We can't be successful without you. So we're hoping all these little tips will help. Mike, you want to close us out?
Well, yeah, I mean, I definitely appreciate the opportunity. I still see, my gosh, I see there's what, 15, so that's me included. There's 14 of you on, 13 of you by choice. So that's just phenomenal to still have that participation at the end of this meeting. I was really happy to be invited to do this. Devan, anytime you want to work on something like this, just let me know. I'm excited for next week's presentation. Like I said, Canva is phenomenal. It is so powerful, and really an hour is not long enough to go through everything, but I really will do my best. So thank y'all so much, and I look forward to our next presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Oh, here, I was gonna, I'm trying to remember. Is the,
You want me to send it back to you?
oh, I should know this right off the top of my head. Well, I was gonna share everybody.
I just sent it. You got
it's
it.
just District 4. No. I just wanted to share this through chat. If you need anything, even if I'm not specifically in your area, if you send, like, if you have questions about online meetings or Canva or anything in the future, that district4@scpta.org, you can get right a hold of me, and I'll be able to just shoot you an email in response and give you some kind of help.
And Mike, we'll
That's
need
if you have any questions about what we talked about today.
And we'll need you to keep track and make sure that they all get to the questions, get to the office, so our new office people will be able to compile that information and post it with the presentations of the helpful tips and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. When and this will be my promise, when I return an email, if somebody emails me and has a question about something like this, when I respond to that individual, I'll copy the district president and the state so that they're all made aware of the questions. That way, if they get the same question in the future, they can answer it.
We appreciate
perfect. That's
you, Mike.
A great suggestion, Michelle.
Big hand clap.
Well, thank you. Hey, and we're 4 minutes early, so perfect.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. We appreciate you.